All right, we're gonna see if we can give this planter a test run today. It's gonna be kind of a gloomy one. We're supposed to be clear through most of the day, but we do have chances of rain this evening, so it needs to get done before this evening, obviously. But first things first, I gotta get the planter unhooked so I can take the tractor down and do a couple things to it. Go, damn ya. Okay. All right. So I gotta take PTO shield off, slide drawbar all the way in. And I gotta put these guys go on my sway blocks to tighten up the 3-point so it doesn't sway side to side. Okay, that should be all that needed to happen back here. So while I got it unhooked, I'm gonna run it down and fill it up with fuel, and I'm gonna throw the rest of the suitcase weights on it, because the book said I threw 4 suitcase weights on there, because I was like, surely there's no way. I mean, especially in planting position, everything so far back, that thing can't be that tongue heavy. Book said run full rack of suitcase weights. Now after running it last year, I believe it. So I'm gonna throw throw the other 4 weights on. So I'll do that, and then we'll go hook the planter back up. All right, I think I got everything out here, aside from possibly some tools, which I can get later. But I think I got everything out here that we need to do what we need with what we need to do, right? Is that the word? I have everything that I need to do what we need to do. That makes more sense. So first thing we got to do is I'm going to do a speed calibration on it. Did one last year, forgot to write the number down. Don't really like how the one, I barely had enough room in the field that I went to first last year to do the speed calibration. Got plenty more room here, so we'll be able to do it more better. But in order to do that, we need some flags and a measuring wheel. And what we're gonna do, I'd have probably been better off to get the disc out and make a couple passes with the disc to make a spot to do this in, but yeah. So we're gonna put a flag, and that sets our start point. And then we got to measure out a 400-foot course starting from this here flag. And this will be our course to do the speed calibration on the monitor, since I don't have a radar. Which I'd really like to find a radar so that you have active, what's the word I'm looking for? Active speed feedback. However, I was looking at radars for that planter, for that SM3000 monitor. Oop, we need to start over because I'm not going very straight. And even used ones, like, I mean, we're talking, for the radar for that, we're talking what, 30-year-old technology now. I don't know, does any modern monitor even run radar? Pretty sure they all go off a wash, right off your GPS globe. But anyway, you're looking at like 500 to 600 bucks for a used one with no guarantees. It's like, what? I can't justify that. So for now, we'll just do it the old-fashioned way with the speed calibration. But basically what we got to do here is lay out a 400-foot long course with the 2 flags, and then run it, make a pass with the planter. And actually they want you to make a couple passes just to verify the number. And then you plug that number into the monitor, and then that sets your monitor as sets it as a speed constant in the monitor. Where are we at? 212. And then the monitor, basically the monitor just uses it for a calculation on your speed setting, uses the speed setting number in a calculation to get your population. So basically your population is only good at, in theory, 5 miles an hour. That being said, last year it seems like I was planting in times at damn near 7 miles an hour. 400. Close enough. Okay, there's our course. And man, I was able to I was able to get 400 feet in that little... There ain't no way. Anyhow. Okay, so it wanted us to measure off an accurate 400-foot long course, which we did. And then we got to turn our monitor on. And then we got to go... Well, no shit, Rose failed. It's not doing anything. So then we go to setup mode. And then we go to speed set, right? The upper display showing message setup and speed, which it is. And Forge is just displaying. And then basically what you do is you watch the center line of your rear tire. Well, I guess you don't necessarily have to use the center line of your rear tire, but you set a start point on the tractor. So I'm going to use the center line of the tire. So basically you start driving across the field, and when that flag hits the view of the center line of the tire, you hit distance start, and it will start running its calculation. You drive down the field at 5 miles an hour, and then when you get to the second flag, center line on the tire, you hit distance stop. Where's that one? Distance stop right there. And that will set, or that, and then it will stop and it'll spit out a number there on the display, and that's going to be your speed constant. So at least I'm pretty sure it wanted 5 miles an hour. Drive at steady speed through entire course. What do you consider steady speed? I thought it was 5 miles an hour. Let me do a little bit of reading here real quick. I was right, it's 5 miles an hour. Right there. Drive up to the marked course at a speed of about 5 miles an hour. I saw the 5 seconds and I missed the 5 miles an hour. So, what I'm going to do now is we'll go up here in front of the barn where I got some flat ground, and we will figure out, I think it's 4th gear, 4th direct, like 2000, like 1600, 1700 RPM, I think. But we'll figure out what our gear and engine speed is for 5 miles an hour, and then we can come down here and run the course. Which, to run the course, you don't have to have the fan on, you don't have to have seed in the planter or nothing. I think, if I remember right, the monitor will sit there and bitch at you the whole time because it's not planting anything, but you don't need to have anything physically in the planter. Okay, so 5 miles an hour is, according to the speedometer I got on my phone and on the tractor speedometer, so that's pretty damn accurate. But 5 miles an hour, 4th gear, direct, 1900 RPM. So now we can run our course. Probably gonna be a little bumpy. Okay, so I made several more passes at it and got enough, close enough numbers to average together, and I came up with a constant of 78.85. So I guess we're gonna go with 78.85. And I think I actually have 2 seed sensors still that are on the fritz, because 4 and 7, while you're driving across the field with the planter picked up, are getting ghost reads, which then in turn pisses the monitor off because it thinks 4 and 7 are planting, and it's saying that all the other rows are failed. So the monitor's sitting there going the whole time. So I guess we'll throw some seed in it and see. But this is just, I cleaned out a bunch of old seed last summer, and I kept this stuff specifically for this job. But this stuff is some old mycogen plot seed that I had given to me. Well, is there a date on here? October of 2019, so I've had it since 19. Actually October, so I had it since 2020 probably. If it would have been tested. I'm trying to remember who the heck gave this to me. Seems like, yeah, it doesn't matter. But anyway, I think they're 25-pound bags. Might not actually net weight. Oh, 17-pound bags. So hopefully I got enough in there to stretch enough across the rows. Which technically this soil is warm enough. We get a little bit of rain on it, it would germinate, and it would. I mean, if it germinates, that makes life that much easier because the field cultivator will kill it. But it would be interesting to see, without doing a cold germ test on it, put that stuff in the ground and see if it'll actually come out of the ground at 4 years old. So anyhow, I'll dump a little bit of seed in here and we'll see what our problem childs are going to be. Okay, I got seed in it. So plugged into the monitor. a pass down and a pass back, and I never had a row fail. I do think I'm going to change. I think I'm going to change the sensor on row 4 and either get another one coming from Shoop or go up to the deer dealer on Monday and get another one for row 7. Because like I say, just sitting here, these two will sit there and ghost when the planter's not doing anything, and then it causes that failed roll alarm because the planter for a split second thinks it's planting. But row 5 didn't act up a single time, so I didn't see which one it was. Which one is it? Which one of you's doing it? 4 or 7? That's not going to do it now that I'm looking at it. 7. So I guess the next thing I want to do while we got it hooked up is I'll get the markers down, because I got to get the markers set correctly, because apparently measuring them out didn't do good enough. So that's the next thing. You gotta give the old girl credit where credit's due. Planting right into this rough ass chisel plow ground. You can't see a single seed laying on top of the ground. She's putting them all in. Not that I would ever do this, you know, in real life, but, and not that a brand new planter wouldn't do the same thing, but it's just kind of funny. So I gotta go grab a couple tools so that we got something to adjust them on. Hey, fence insulator. This used to be horse pasture for a period of time in its life. Okay, got scared for a minute. I went to make this pass and it wasn't planting nothing. I was like, oh crap, got to turn the PTO back on. She can't plant no seeds without no air pressure, eh? Okay, well, let's just do this. Okay, so that's not too bad. So I'll have to go up and make a turn, because one of these marker arms is way off and I'm not 100% sure why. So I guess we'll see. This one's obviously good, so we'll have to check the other one. Okay, I got the marker arm. This one's fine, or no, yeah, this one's fine. That's the only one I had to adjust to get my 30-inch on when you're going this way. And I've measured it. I can't figure out why, because near as I can tell, everything on the marker arms is the same length. I measured the lengths of the frame and it is the same distance from center to center. That row unit is only a half inch in further on the frame than that row unit, so that ain't gonna make much difference. But I had to make this marker arm 6 inches longer to get my row spacing correct. So hell if I know. The only thing I can think of, that's got to be it. Holy crap, you stand out on the end of that thing, it's even worse. That's got to be it. That whole marker arm from the frame out to here should be straight, and it is right. This one took a pretty massive hit at some point. They had to weld this whole area has been disconfoculated and repaired, and Lord knows, but that whole marker arm is bent. I bet that's the reason. I bet if it was straight, it would be correct. I've never actually stood on the end of this thing and sighted down the frame to realize, holy crap, that is, I bet that's a solid 16 inches back from the tip to the frame. Keep your markers out of the fence rows, boys. And this one hasn't really ever had any welding done on it that I can tell, so I bet this one, well, it looks like at some point somebody might have replaced the pivot point, but other than that, this one appears to be fairly straight, so that's got to be the reason. But now my markers are set correct, although they're set different, but they're set to where my spacing is right, which is going to make life easier. I think I'm just about out of seed. I had row unit started running out on me. That one's empty. That one's still got some in it. That one's about empty. Be nice to just plan it out, because then I don't gotta vacuum it. So I will get, I think I might just make one more pass across the field. Should pretty much run them row units out so I can plan it out, and then I'll fold up and we'll go back up to the house. And I think I'm going to replace the sensor on number 7 because it was screwing up a lot more than 4. And I'll probably go ahead and get 2 of them, and I'll replace 4, and I'll have a spare because I'm guessing they're all probably about the same age. But monitor works, acre counter was working, which makes me feel a whole lot better about life. Planted 8/10 of an acre. Apparently that one must be a live feed or a live number. And near as I can tell, without having radar and only doing that ground speed calculation, I don't think you can trust this population number a whole lot. I mean, I think it's close, but I don't think it's right on, because last year my seed usage came out pretty much right dead nuts, and according to this, I'm actually planting low, which would probably mean that my calibration speed would have been fast, right? I believe that's right. So that probably means my calibration number is too low, maybe. But as long as the monitor is monitoring, that's the big thing. So anyhow, moving on. Okay, I got that sensor on row number 7 changed out. I guess the last thing I have to do, other than changing out the other sensor that I still got to get yet, at least that I could think of right offhand, I can't think of anything else, at least planner wise, that needs done. But I have to, or I don't have to, I'm going to put a little bit of water in each of the fertilizer tanks so that I can take a drill and spin the fertilizer pump over and flush the lines and make sure there's nothing in them. And then I can hook the fertilizer drive back up and the planter will pretty much be ready to go. Okay, I got, I don't know, 10-15 gallon of water maybe. Maybe not. But we just gotta put a socket adapter on the old drill here and put her in low gear. Although it does take both hands to do this because she's pretty. Oh. Helps if you turn the valve on, right? One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Takes it a minute to get down to that end one there. You ought to be able to see from right here, I do believe. I hate on the new drills the dang torque limiter they got. Just that's about annoying. You can't feather the trigger, because in a sense it's a torque overload, and God forbid we build a tool heavy enough to just, you know, take the torque. No, we got to build in a torque limiter so that it shuts itself off to prevent overload. Screw it. If the thing hangs up, I want it to break my arm. At least that way I know the drill's got some ass. But I gotta just keep running water through this till it's all out, so might take me a minute at this rate. Okay, I got it all run out. It just took a minute. I like Milwaukee too. Well, it's not limited to just Milwaukee, they're all like that, but build the damn thing stout enough that it doesn't have to have an overload and overheat sensor in it, and you'll just run. A 1/2 inch drill should have done that job just fine. That thing don't turn that hard. But as a quick side story, because I was thinking of it because we were talking about drills and breaking arms and whatnot. So this has been several years ago. I was over at my buddy's house, and I think we were getting ready for a plow day or something. Had to have been, because we were working on a plow. But we were over there one night in his dad's shop, and there was something in the tail wheel that was slapped out, and we were going to punch the hole out oversized and put a bigger bolt in it. I think it was the tail wheel stop, you know, to keep it from turning too far one way or the other. And yeah, that's what it was. It was the tail wheel stop. And on the Oliver plows, they have a spot where you can I think it's actually supposed to be like a spring-loaded like U-hook that you can flip over, and it'll drop down through and lock the tail wheel for going down the road so it won't shimmy. Seems like on that plow that part had been long gone, so he just dropped a 1/2 inch bolt down in it. But anyway, the bolt that held it in the tail wheel spindle was all slapped out, and it had slapped the hole all out. So we were going to punch it out bigger and put I can't remember, we were going to put a bigger bolt in. It doesn't matter what size. And the only drill his dad had that would run the bit we needed to run, it seems like it was a Black & Decker. Might have been a Milwaukee, but I'm pretty sure it was a Black & Decker. And I mean, this thing was like from the 60s or 70s. This big, huge I think it was like a 1/2 or 3/4 horse drill. And if I remember right, his grandpa got it out of the steel mills. And I mean, this drill was the motor on it was like almost the size of this cover. I mean, this drill is just picture this massive hunk of aluminum casting. And I bet that drill itself probably weighed 5-6 pounds. I mean, the whole thing was just massive. And on the top of it, it had like a 24-inch long hunk of pipe bolted to the top of it for a grab handle. And you had to run it with 2 hands. You had the trigger and handle here, and then you had the pipe here, and you had to hold it and you straddled it. And I mean, you know, that drill had 0 shits. That one would twist you up like a pretzel if it caught. So we had to drill this hole out, and I can't remember who all was over there. There was either 3 or 4 of us there. proceeded to spend the next like hour and a half, 2 hours laughing our asses off, taking turns watching this drill throw us across the shop because it would grab. And it was one of them deals where the motor had so much torque when you let off the trigger, it took it like 30 seconds to wind down. Like there was so much torque and inertia in this drill, and it was just it was a good time. But that I was thinking about that story while that was back when America knew how to build power tools. That was actually, I'm pretty sure it was a Black & Decker, and that was back when Black & Decker was an actual respectable tool brand. Now it's just a homeowner garbage crap. So anyhow, I can't walk that too far that way. YouTube will hear the radio and get pissed at me. So, that's done. I think that's all I needed to do, other than get another sensor for it. And before I fold up, I want to make a hydraulic adjustment on the tractor, see if I can get it to pick up and set down a little better. Alright, I just made a few checks to make sure the hydraulics on the tractor are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they are. So the planter lifts kind of slow, which with that gear pump you kind of expect that. But the goofiest thing it does, and it did it to me 2 or 3 times last year, if you fill the fertilizer tanks all the way up and you make a pass across the field, you get down to the end on your first pass. If you got the tractor revved up to 17, 18, 1900 RPM, the RPM that I'm running at while I'm planting, planter won't pick up. Idle the tractor down, planter will jump right out of the ground like it's nothing. But I don't know, it's weird. So the only thing I could think of is possibly the relief valve spring is getting weak. And when you're hitting it with that much hydraulic flow at pressure, maybe it's blowing it past the relief. But it doesn't appear to be doing that with a gauge, but a gauge ain't a planter. So, and I think I'm wondering if one of my issues with what we got going on between the alternator and regulators, I'm wondering if my belts are loose. Which this thing needs different belts. They need to be about 1 inch or so shorter because I'm out of adjustment and they're just barely tight. So I might do that tomorrow, is run into town and get a couple belts that are 1 inch shorter and put on there and see if that helps. Because believe it or not, loose alternator belts will do a whole bunch of goofy shit to a charging system that you wouldn't think comes from it'll make all sorts of goofy stuff happen. So, and if that doesn't do it, since obviously not gonna be planting corn for another couple weeks yet, might call the alternator shop that I've been wanting to try out, where it's actually a place I bought the parts for the starter on this thing this winter, and see if I can take them the alternator and the regulator both, and say, hey, either make these work together, first off make sure the alternator's up to snuff, because this is a genuine Delco, you know, good solid vintage alternator, so might as well rebuild that one rather than buying a cheap Chinese knockoff new one. Have the alternator checked out and taking have the regulator checked out and have him calibrate the two to work together, and if that regulator is indeed bad, have him get the correct regulator for it and have him make the new regulator, you know, work together. That way I'm not trying to do it on the tractor, because it actually, I mean, you can wing it with the ammeter on the dash, but there's actually some specialty tooling that's involved with setting up a regulator properly. So if he can do it on a bench with the proper tools, more power to him. But with that being said, other than getting a new sensor for that, I think, and finally are chasing down the rest of my gremlins up here, I think we're ready to rock and roll as far as the planter goes. So just a couple small little projects to finish up between tomorrow and Monday while it's raining, and with any luck at all, we'll be ready to rock and roll and we can start doing some field work. So with that being said, I guess that's it for this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one.